This is Terry McNulty, Professor and Associate Dean for Internationalisation.
This is John Green, Study Abroad and Internationalisation Officer.
This is Dr. Ahmed, Senior Lecturer in Marketing and Director of Studies, BA Marketing.
Dr. Severina Cartwright, Lecturer in Marketing and Academic Lead for Global Opportunities.
This is Dr. Dane Anderson, Director of MBA Programmes at the University of Liverpool Management School, and you are listening to the Academy's Developing Practice podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Academy's Developing Practice podcast. In this podcast, we chat with Terry, John, Ahmed, Severina and Dane about their team's recent Sir Alistair Pilkington Award for Teaching Excellence, awarded for their development of online student exchange opportunities through collaborative online international learning or COIL projects. We hope you enjoy.
Terry, Ahmed, Severina, Dane and John, we're really pleased to be speaking with all of you today about your recent Sir Alistair Pilkington Award for Teaching Excellence, awarded for your development of online student exchange opportunities through collaborative online international learning. And that's a little bit of a mouthful, so I'm glad there's an acronym there. The acronym is COIL projects. But before we get started, can you each tell us a little bit about your background and how you have arrived at the positions that you're in today, please? And Terry, can I start with you?
Sure. I joined the management school and the university in 2006. I was Professor of Management and Corporate Governance, having been at Leeds and Warwick. I very quickly became the school's Director of Research between 2006 and 2014. The school was in an early phase of its development. In fact, that was part of the attraction. It was in some ways a formative startup phase. And then in 2016, when the school was much more mature, I became the Associate Dean International. And in that role, I'm responsible for the international strategy, which includes international partnerships for student exchange and mobility. And in that sense, I'm very pleased to be able to talk about COILs, and have been involved in COILs in the context of that international strategy and the overall vision for the school to be globally connected and advancing influential knowledge leadership through research and teaching to better business and society. So since 2006, it's been quite a long journey, but a very interesting one through the growth phases of the school.
Brilliant. So it wasn't the city that drew you in; it was the opportunity to almost form something from scratch for yourself. Is that right? City
is very important to me.
Right.
I was born in the city, and it is very, very important. But it wasn't the driving decision for joining the university. It was an aspect, and I did spot that in 2006. The context of Liverpool was much more optimistic and changing for the better. And in fact, I brought the first ever management conference to the city in 2009. It was the European Academy of Management Conference. And we attracted nearly 1,000 delegates and held it in the conference in the arena. So that was an important development for the school. So the city is very important in my background in the school, but it was really the school's position and in its life cycle. And having been at Leeds and Warwick, I had a good sense of what established schools looked like and how they worked, and I wanted to bring some of that to the University of Liverpool.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, I can well imagine you must have seen a lot of change in the city over the last 16 years. Ahmed, I'm going to come to you next. What about your background?
Thanks, Matt. So I started at the University of Liverpool Management School in August 2015 it was. And I've been involved in lots of exciting projects around consumption practices, in conflict zones, looking at how individuals acculturate from one culture to another, I was involved in an impact case looking at improving service experiences and end-of-life care. So lots of exciting projects that have been going on. From around 2018, I became the Director of Studies for BA Marketing. And really my key interest, one of my core reasons for taking part in the COIL is my fascination really with internationalisation, cultural awareness, building a strong international student community. So I would say those were the three drivers for me. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I mean, this project really sort of fit in with your aims anyway. Then in that respect.
Absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant. Severina, how about yourself?
Yes, I joined the University of Liverpool in October 2018 as a lecturer in marketing and also the study abroad champion. Prior to that, I worked at Coventry University as a digital marketing lecturer, and I finished my PhD at University of Bath. And my research interests lie within social media marketing, digital marketing, relationships, and hence I also got involved in one of the COILs, the COIL between Berlin and Liverpool, which focuses on digital aspects, and I was able to bring my research into the COIL, my expertise, and also some industry experience as I worked as European channel marketing executive, product manager, and consultant in social media. So I was able to bring both aspects in there, which was very exciting for me to share both. And last but not least, I also got to be from January 2022 the Global Opportunities Academic Lead for the Management School, which again involved me to another level with internationalization and with student mobility, which is very important for the school and very exciting for me personally, because I am an advocate of studying abroad. I studied abroad 1 year in California and 1 year in Australia in Melbourne. So from a personal perspective, I also want to share that knowledge, that experience, and drive internationalization forward in different areas within the school.
Brilliant. I mean, from Coventry to Melbourne, that's an interesting journey.
Yes, you can call it an interesting journey indeed.
Thanks, Serena. And Dane, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I joined University of Liverpool Management School in April 2021. So I'm probably the newest member of the team here today. And I joined as the director of the University of Liverpool Management School MBA programs, having spent the last 4 years working in Manchester, developing executive education programs and degree apprenticeship programs. But my area of interest is around strategy. It's around an interest in how we create advantage, but how we can do that more responsibly. So as the director of MBAs here at the University of Liverpool Management School, it's an absolute pleasure to learn from and work with potential future leaders who are going to go into industry and create new jobs, create new employment. And one of my key interests for getting involved in this is that I wanted to make sure we can have our students working with people in different contexts, different parts of the world on issues that matter to us all, like sustainability, like responsible management.
Thanks, Dane. So as you started in, just last year, what was it that drew you to the University of Liverpool, can I ask?
Oh, so that's a good question. I did my PhD at the University of Liverpool in 2014. Right. So I've done a complete kind of 360, haven't I, down the M62. So started at Liverpool, went to Manchester, boomeranged back, really. But it was the opportunity to work with a school that's making really strong strides internationally in the research and in teaching as well. So that's what really drew me back. And to really shape a program, to shape a portfolio of programs across the MBA. MBA's been, every management school wants a good MBA. And this is something I wanted to sink my teeth into pedagogically and also in terms of research as well, to make sure we get the best people teaching on the MBA and shaping it for the future as well.
Yeah, brilliant. It sounds like a fantastic opportunity in that case then. John, last but no means least.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having us along. So I actually completed my undergrad degree at Manchester Met, and I studied abroad like Severina did, actually, as part of my degree. And I went to the State University of New York at Cortland. And I also did an internship with the New York State Assembly as well, which is kind of where my internationalisation journey started. And that really led to me then going back into supporting lecturers at MMU, going back in and talking to students about studying abroad, about mobility. And that's kind of how I got started. And ended up doing an internship as an international strategist and then becoming the international projects coordinator before moving to ULMS in August 2017 as the study abroad and internationalisation officer, which is what I do now. I suppose I take Terry's strategy and operationalise it. So looking at student mobility, both inbound and outbound, looking at partnerships as well, and then obviously dealing with our COIL projects.
Right, well, I'm glad you've mentioned COIL projects, because I very quickly went over the name for COIL earlier on, and people have probably already forgotten what that is. So I'm going to ask a really obvious question. What is a COIL project?
Well, COIL stands for Collaborative Online International Learning Project. In fact, it was John who introduced me to the idea of COIL. So he's just said he works with Terry's strategy, but certainly we're certainly influenced by ideas from all colleagues. And John certainly brought that idea to the table, and we've built it as an important part of the strategy. There's a body of literature about COILs, and there's quite a lot of writing about COILs generally. And in fact, talking to some potential partners just last summer, it emerged that there's quite a lot of practice internationally around COILs. So in that sense, we're not the creators of COILs, but what we are here in the management school are the group that has used the idea of COILs to be an approach to education that we've developed with international partners that works online as opposed to through traditional mobility, which was clearly impeded by the pandemic. And we can talk about that in more detail if you wish. So that students with very different geographical, educational backgrounds have this opportunity to develop their competence, their awareness, their skills in cross-cultural matters, really. And it's that international appreciation. It's that so COIL as a project really serves the whole ethos of internationalisation and being a global citizen, etc.
I think a nice, easy way to kind of sum up COILs for us, certainly in the management school, is just that it's an opportunity for us to bring staff and students together from different countries, cultures and academic backgrounds and kind of work towards that common goal. We've used our projects to provide students with a platform to kind of learn more about themselves, learn about others and their cultures and the challenges facing business. I think that's probably the most succinct way to put it.
So I think with regards to COIL projects, they really do contribute to a stronger course, school and study exchange community. You know, if we look at our partners that we have collaborated on COIL projects with, students from our university, from the partners university, they've been able to work collaboratively with each other. They've been able to develop a whole plethora, of skills, not least cultural awareness, time management, teamwork and communication, working with each other in different time zones, because that's really important when they go into the world of work. And, lest we not forget, we are now living in a global village, which bears no borders. And this is reflected in the COIL project, in that the collaborations and the projects are conducted online. So also from a sustainability perspective, it's a win-win situation, but also from an EDI and equality, diversity and inclusion perspective, there's also that as well.
Fantastic. These projects have obviously had a massive impact in terms of the student experience, but also the impact for staff as well. And you were awarded a university Sir Alistair Pilkington Award for teaching excellence for your development of these projects recently. And we all attended the Staff Awards, and I have to say you got one of the loudest cheers across the whole awards ceremony. So congratulations for that. Many congratulations for your awards. As I say, that's recognition from the university in terms of the impact that the projects are having. So can you tell us, and you've started to allude to this a little bit, but can you tell us a bit about the motivation for why you chose to set up the projects in the first place?
Sure. I think it's important to put it in the context of the challenge we faced as a school and an institution with regard to student mobility in conditions of the pandemic. We had a very healthy flow of outbound and inbound exchange students traditionally, but that was clearly impeded by the pandemic. So I think what happened was that certainly prior to the pandemic, there was an interest in developing this online exchange opportunity, and I think John's work with Ahmed and the University of Georgia was very important in terms of developing that idea within the team. So we had this idea of an online exchange opportunity as something to add to our internationalisation strategy, by which we could potentially reach students for whom international mobility was problematic. Might be the students from disadvantaged, underrepresented backgrounds, Black, Asian, minority ethnic backgrounds, widening participation backgrounds. So there was this interest in COILs generally, but the pandemic sharpened our focus in terms of the importance of and the possibilities and potential of online student exchange. And in that sense, the COIL was a way to address a problem of actual mobility. We also had, as part of our international, we do have as part of our international strategy, what we call an internationalisation at home agenda. And the whole point of that is to ensure that the experience on the Liverpool campus is an international experience, so that students from the UK and from overseas are integrated, work together, and that feels like an international experience. So again, COILs gave us an opportunity to integrate students with the added involvement of partner organisations internationally. So COILs also fitted with the internationalisation at home agenda. So as COVID-19 stalled traditional modes of mobility, we as a team, and I think that's one of the things I keep emphasising here, that we are a team. We saw COILs as having real potential to complement everything we wanted to achieve through our international strategy, in really using online and virtuality in really difficult conditions. And I think that's what we've achieved so far is a reflection of that ambition coming to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, like Terry says there, as a team, we like to try and develop new things. Like each year, we do our own kind of marketing and operations plan of kind of the projects that we're going to run each year. And I think as a team, we would like to come up with those new initiatives and projects that can enthuse students about international mobility, about the global opportunities that we've got. And normally, obviously, pre-pandemic, we're kept quite busy with our kind of other traditional modes. So as the pandemic hit, it gave us a little bit of time to be a bit more creative and kind of put these COIL projects that we'd kind of thought about and discussed briefly. But it kind of gave us a bit more room to play with those and kind of develop those ideas a little bit more, basically to try and keep our students interested in internationalisation and study abroad. And we're hoping then that could potentially lead to future actual mobilities by keeping their interest.
So, John, are you now moving back towards a traditional method, or are you all in on COILs now? Is this the mode, or are you going to be doing a bit of both?
I mean, we're very lucky in the management school that we've got kind of strategic buy-in from Terry as well there, and I think initially we saw COILs as being not kind of almost a substitute towards the traditional forms of mobility because of the pandemic. But I think, and we'll come on to this later when we talk about impact, but because of their impact, we very much see it as something that we want to push forward with. It's an opportunity to try and strike that balance between traditional forms of mobility like the semester abroad, year in China, and the summer abroad programs. And then this as well. This is very much seen as an addition to that core set, and it's not an afterthought, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. It makes a lot of sense. So let's just get into the detail a little bit of it then. So can you tell us a little bit about the model that you use for the COIL projects? What happening under the surface there?
Well, we don't want to go into too much detail and give away all our trade secrets. But we've run 4 projects in total across 3 different partnerships, and we've used a slightly different model for each one, basically to try and experiment and see what works and kind of what opportunities are available for us. So Ahmed and I and the team working on the UGA COIL, we ran this over a 10-week period, and Ahmed and my other academic colleagues that were involved created 5 business-related problems that we would then put into a project brief for students to work on. And it was very much kind of a more directed approach. Like, we set out to students that we want these 3 outputs and the deliverable by these times. And like I said, those projects that Ahmed and the other academic colleagues came up with very much kind of fit the cohort of who we were working with. The students would then deliver those outputs, and then the top 5 teams would go through into almost a competition style finale where they would they'd pitch their ideas to a panel of academic judges and industry experts, with one team eventually coming out on top as the COIL winners. So that was very much the UGA COIL. In the second year, though, we found that, after that first year, we found that the projects were really flexible and we could do a lot more with them. And obviously, Terry's been working really hard over the last couple of years on a new partnership with the Indian Institute of Management at Indore. And so Dane and I then started to work on a new COIL project with them. And Dane, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about the approach we took with Indore.
Yeah, absolutely. So our COIL with the Indian Institute for Management Indore, taking a similar approach to what happened at UGA, a lot of good learning was taken from that first project. But we focused here, MBA level, we focused more on self-managed learning, so allowing the students to direct where they wanted to go. So the MBA students, over a 1-week intensive period here, would choose the depth, the level, the direction of everything they wanted to do in and around the COIL. So they were asked to read around a particular subject area, in a much shorter time frame. And the reason for that was, trying to replicate some kind of crisis scenarios maybe that they might get in the real world. And it goes back to kind of what you were saying about this blended approach of, are we keeping some exchange of going abroad versus keeping this online? The real world now is about that blend of both, isn't it? We will do some calls virtually, we will do some calls in person. So we want to kind of replicate that. MBA, you're going in at a senior level, you direct, you're given a problem, you decide how you're going to dissect that problem and look at it. So instead of creating business-related problems, though, again, linking back to my own interests and kind of some interesting research that Terry had brought forward in a module previously as well, we thought, let's do something a bit more responsible, sustainable. So we took the UN sustainability goals, 17 goals in total, self-directed learning, self-managed learning, that's 17 areas which can go in many different avenues in many different ways. And that for us enriched the process because we were learning just as much as they were learning as well. So we had a team working with, I think there was around 14 groups in total, I think it was quite a number of groups working with IIM Indore and ourselves. And they came up with some very interesting things across those UN sustainability goals, whether it's from what research has been done, what solutions are kind of emerging to tackle these particular problems, or whether it's just their swing on what they think should happen in this particular area. So a very interesting moment and a very interesting time to put something that affects us no matter where we are in the world. You're going to have to look at these real wicked problems. So we focused again on that wickedness of a problem. There's no silver bullet, if you like. It's about a systems thinking approach. So multiple skills, multiple behaviours, multiple parts of knowledge having to really come together to look at these interesting issues.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, I could imagine that, you know, maybe students in India would have a very different approach to solving some of the same things that we're talking about in England and in different parts of the world as well. So yeah, I can really see the benefit of that type of collaboration.
Yes, I took part as a tutor in that COIL, working with some of the groups, and that was a great experience actually for me. And I actually just witnessed students in Indore and Liverpool genuinely coming together in quite intense conditions. Really, time was quite tight, so they had to find out how to work together effectively very quickly. But I remember one session where they were each reflecting on each other's backgrounds prior to their MBA programs, and how they were using backgrounds in finance, engineering, for example, to address some of the problems that Dane has mentioned. So it was so for me that was a really good COIL to be involved in, because we cannot. It talked about international strategy, etc. But in the end, it has to translate into very meaningful experiences and dialogue for students. And so there was plenty of evidence that happened, and I'm very pleased that we're looking to continue this COIL, and with a very prestigious partner for the school and the institution.
Thanks, Terry. Severina, you were involved in the Berlin COIL. Can you tell us what that was?
Yes, so the Berlin COIL was slightly different compared to the other COILs. It was an intense 1-week project, like the indoor project, but instead of focusing on competition-based activities like the others, this project consisted of different pedagogical styles and also a competition-based activity. So on the one hand, in the mornings, we had lectures being delivered by myself from Liverpool, but also lecturers from Berlin University. And we also had a guest lecture from Cardiff University and very exciting keynote speaker from industry, a CEO of multiple companies who spoke about fast fashion and sustainability. And the students really enjoyed that keynote speaker. And he said he never seen that many LinkedIn requests after the session, which was great to see the engagement between the students and the speakers. In the afternoon, then, there were seminar sessions where students were able to collaborate and engage with each other and work on a task. And in the afternoon session, the students were able to apply the knowledge that they gained in the morning sessions from the lectures in their afternoon activities. The activities consisted of various different digital tasks, such as developing a website about the product or service that they developed. They had to write a blog, a thought leadership blog, to showcase the strengths and key features of the product or service. And the results were absolutely outstanding. For me, all of the groups were winners, but we did have to choose one winner at the end, unfortunately. But I think all the presentations were absolutely outstanding. But just to summarize and to say why this COIL was so important for me personally, is because after the pandemic, we're not going to be going to normal working hours, 9 till 5, going to the office. Businesses are changing, environments are changing. Zoom is here to stay. The pandemic has changed the dynamics of industry. And this COIL provided students the ability to develop different digital skills, social media skills, website development skills that they will be needing later on, but also to communicate using digital tools which again, they need these skills when they graduate university and go into industry. So hence, this was a very close to my heart COIL, where I was able to drive these skills and students to develop these skills.
So were the students in their seminars, were they from Berlin and from Liverpool, were they mixed together, or did you then separate them into the two distinct university settings?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Great question. So they were mixed because we didn't want for them to be feeling, okay, this is only Liverpool and this is only Germany. So we mixed them into different groups so that they could also explore different nationalities, different cultures, see how students from different countries, different universities also are communicating with each other.
I think the great thing about the three different styles of projects is that all of the students have worked in inter-institutional teams. And we'll come on to it in terms of impact and how that's fit into that. But the three methods have really kind of give us an opportunity for discussing how we can take COILs forward in the school. You know, Severina's project shows the potential of how we can operate a COIL on, with a more specific thematic focus. And our other projects kind of show how COILs can be used as an extracurricular activity that supports the development of employability skills, which is obviously something really key for the students, but it's also a key, performance indicator for the school and the university as well. And I think, like I said, those three different types of projects have given us options going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that flexibility that you've built in. It's really clear to me why you won such a prestigious award for these projects, because it seems that there's really clear benefits for our students at the University of Liverpool, but also, as you were saying, Severina, for the students at the partnering institutions as well, at the moment in the USA, Europe and India. So you've alluded to this a little bit, John, but can you tell us now about the impact of this approach for maybe student outcomes or the student experience? And what did the students themselves say about these projects?
I think actually it would be useful if Terry can kind of set the scene for that impact, because it's through that kind of strategic backing that we're able to deliver that impact. So I don't know if Terry, you want to mention something there?
Yeah, sure. I think the impact of the COILs is clearly multidimensional, and I'm a believer that the most important impact is upon the students. So colleagues and John will talk about that shortly, but it's certainly both for the present and the future. Some of the significance of COILs lies in the relationships with partners, and how these have been developed and enriched. Really, we already had the partnership with the University of Georgia as a university, so I think that COIL has enriched that partnership. The partnership with Indore within India was happening and is happening and involves several lines of activity, but the COIL has really enriched that partnership and provides a future way of continuing to work together. And similarly, the COIL with Berlin, where that's a developing partnership. So I think impact for me has taken place at the partner level and is very important. I think it's taken place at the staff level. We often have an impression that sometimes inertia can take hold and systems are hard to change quickly and ideas are hard to implement quickly. When I think back on my career, and it's really thanks to colleagues on this call and partner colleagues, this is an example of colleagues reacting quickly. Really, to pull together 3 or 4 projects of this nature with international colleagues and partners in a pandemic is an incredible achievement by my colleagues here. And it showed flexibility, adaptability, creativity. These aren't buzzwords; they're real achievements, and that's in many ways what I'm most proud of regarding the COIL. To see that colleagues were able to create this change and create this momentum for the benefit of the students. And with that, it gives staff confidence. It gives staff an ownership of internationalisation. It gives them a confidence to think, I can work with partners. And that helps me get buy-in of staff to our international strategy, because the international strategy is only as good as the staff who work with it. So that's another very, very significant impact. But on top of all of those two dimensions, there's the impact on the students. And I'll leave it to John and colleagues to talk about those impacts.
I think the big impacts, obviously, like Terry said, there's been on staff as well. I mean, the fact that we've been able to develop those partnerships and kind of work a lot closer with those partners as well and develop those relationships has been great. But like we've got, the COILs have also led to other things. So, for example, we've got a staff member who's now joined the International Advisory Board at one of our partners. We've Severina and I are actually going to Berlin to visit so we can discuss the COIL further. And also then we've got other opportunities to talk to students about inbound mobility to the University of Liverpool as a whole and to the management school. So I think from a staff point of view, obviously the impact's been huge. And then from a student point of view, we've managed to work with 195 students, 110 of which are from ULMS. Like, that's quite a large student cohort to work with. And their feedback kind of suggests that they've enjoyed the range of topics, networking internally and externally. The amount of comments that we've got from our feedback saying, I really enjoyed meeting people that even though I share the same course with, I wouldn't normally have met. It's quite interesting to see that kind of dynamic. And then also kind of expanding their critical evaluation skills as well. You look at impact and, we've asked students to feedback on a range of different employability and employability skills. And across the vast majority of those metrics, most of our students have self-described a high rate of improvement, kind of like 8 out of 10. So you look at those specific skills that we've asked them to evaluate at the start of the project. We ask them, how do you think your confidence is, confidence communicating your ideas, and it'll be, we'll say a 5 or a 6. And then you come to the end of the project, we ask them to reevaluate how they think they've improved. And they're all saying it's between 8 and 10 on a scale. And you're looking at anything that, well, we're obviously doing something really good here. But I just think it's that those employability skills are so key. Students have now got that experience of working in multicultural teams, getting digital skills just by working online, and the outputs that we've asked them to provide, like the videos that they've done, those presentation skills as well. And they've developed networking skills, both with our alumni and industry experts like David Connor from 2030 Hub in Liverpool, which are dedicated to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We're providing them with the opportunity to develop skills and also network with key people. And I think that's the impact for us.
Yeah, absolutely. In addition to that, we also were able to secure 3 tuition-free summer abroad places at the University of Liverpool and also at the partners institutions for their summer programs. And the students who were able to take advantage of these free spaces were the top performing team that was determined at the end of the Berlin COIL, for instance. We carried out a Dragon's Den style presentation, and we had a panel of members who then discussed who the winning team is, and the winning team was able to take advantage or to go to a free summer school in either of the institutions, which is a great prize, I think.
It's a wonderful prize. How did that competitive element go down with the students?
They really enjoyed it, to be honest. And I don't think they became too competitive, but a friendly competition, let's put it that way. Feedback at the end was outstanding from all of the teams. Even the winning team, they said, I really didn't think I would be winning because all of the results were outstanding. And they have lots of great digital skills that maybe they should teach me something about.
I think there's something to add just to that. And I think Ahmed can probably say, Ahmed can say something on this as well. Across all of the COILs, the standard of work has just been incredibly high. Like, and I know we're talking about university students, and especially University of Liverpool students, but I was blown away by some of the things that these students are able to create. I certainly didn't expect the outputs that we were going to be getting. So these executive summaries and the quality of the videos from a non-academic, I'm the only non-academic here, and I was blown away by it. I don't know if my academic colleagues were expecting it, but it certainly caught me off guard. So in terms of impact, even just on myself, like seeing their skills and seeing how the students were able to present that to external people really made me quite happy.
Ahmed, were you blown away?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Echo completely what John has said. You know, the outcomes were phenomenal, and our judges were duly impressed. And also to add, with a number of our COIL projects, we've also had alumni members of the university who have come along to act as members of the judging panel. And obviously, you know, they've been at university, they are where the students are now, and they couldn't speak highly enough of the project outcomes as well. And speaking of the alumni community, I think the COIL projects and bringing in alumni and engaging with them, I think is also a really important part of maintaining relations.
Yeah, I get that. I can absolutely see that. One of the things I really like about this is the employability skills as well that's come out of it. I think that's a really nice sort of added benefit. Being able to network internationally must be a huge skill, you know, a huge string to someone's bow when they're looking at, you know, potential employers going forward. But having said that, I guess there must be some challenges that you had when you were setting up these COILs. So one of the things that springs to mind immediately for me was time zones. You must have had issues with time zones. So what were some of the challenges that you had, and how did you try and overcome them?
Yeah, you're not wrong, Matt. I won't lie to you. So first of all, one of the biggest challenges is actually just trying to explain what a COIL is to somebody who doesn't know. So whether that's a partner or a student, or like Ahmed said there, our alumni and our guest judges, trying to explain that concept, because it's kind of so flexible, it's so vast in what you can achieve with it. Sometimes it can be quite difficult to pin down to somebody what it actually is. So you almost have to develop an idea first and then present the idea and be like, this is what it is, you know, to kind of paint that picture. So that in itself is the first challenge, to help someone understand what that was. And we were quite lucky, Ahmed and I, with our project with the University of Georgia, because both sides knew what a COIL project was. So kind of the next part of that, like I said, is the fun part. It's my favourite bit. It's actually developing the projects. And then you can if you go into it with an idea of what you want to see, which tends to happen with me, is that I have an idea of what I want to see. And then I allow my academic colleagues to kind of season that with the flavour of what the projects are going to look like. But that's one of the biggest challenges. And like you say, the next challenge then is timing. It's not even just a case of struggling. So, for example, our colleagues at the Indian Institute of Management in Indore, they're on a trimester kind of structure, whereas we're on a 2-semester kind of option. But even within the 2-semester options, it's still quite difficult because academic calendars are different. You know, at the moment we're looking at when spring break falls in the USA and when Easter falls here. And just when semesters start. So that's one of the biggest challenges. I think the way you overcome that is by both sides having the will to work on it, kind of make little sacrifices here in order to keep that going. And again, that comes back to Terry's point about building those relationships, because if you don't have those relationships or you've not worked on that relationship, it's quite easy to let these challenges and these barriers get in the way of creating the projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Another challenge is obviously knowing which platform is best for which COIL and what is available. For example, John used Teams for its easier, as it was easier to use and the functionality was known. But we faced a lot of difficulties with access for guests from other institutions. For my Berlin COIL, I also faced technological difficulties. I used a new platform that was not known to me, and I faced various challenges. The platform was called Swapcard, and the challenge was it took me significant amount of time to get my head around of the functionalities. How can I use it? How can I develop a week-long COIL with a very detailed agenda, files attached to each session, participants assigned to each session, etc. So learning how to use this tool took me quite some time. However, that being said, at the end, looking back and reflecting, the platform was very useful, and I really enjoyed the end product of it, because students were able to create a profile for themselves. They were able to link as many social media accounts as they wanted to the platform. And with that functionalities, they were able to engage with each other prior the COIL started, but also during and after. And that gave them also access to get in touch, connect with all of the guest speakers, keynote speaker, guest lecturers from all the different institutions. So there was a high level of engagement using different digital tools other than Zoom as we know it. So it was very challenging in terms of time and getting your head around it, but at the end it was very rewarding for the students, for the guest speakers, and also for myself at the end.
Just to follow up briefly on Severina's point, so for the Berlin COIL, for example, and we come back to Terry's mention earlier on about, colleagues working collaboratively with each other. From an operational perspective, as a director of studies for BA Marketing, Severina and I both worked really hard to try and make sure that the Berlin COIL didn't clash with any teaching activities, any examinations. So that meant sending requests to our examinations team, and also from Berlin side as well, to try and make sure that the students just had the Berlin COIL to take part in, because that's an issue that we've found on particularly the UGA project, is that although our COIL projects are voluntary, students they choose to sign up for the projects. We have witnessed in a small minority of students some issues with student engagement, which have led to them dropping out of the project. And there are a whole variety of reasons for this. It's well documented that the pandemic has had a profound impact on issues such as mental health and well-being. And so for some students, suspending their participation meant less pressure and essentially one less thing for them to worry about. Now, coupled with that, we also have lots of different activities which are run by the school, and also employability initiatives. So from a student perspective, it's weighing up, well, which one do I go to? What do I participate in? Which one do I attend? And if there's too much going on, it's a nice problem to have, yes, but also I think it relies on, and this is one of the key learnings that we've found from all the projects, is trying to ensure that the COIL is in line with the program design, where modules are being run, to ensure that there are no clashes, timetabling them where possible. And that will potentially lead to less students perhaps having to suspend their participation. So yeah, it's a nice problem to have, and I think it's something that we are certainly taking into account going forward.
Can I just come in and on an additional challenge, which is one we face now? And this conversation has reminded me of a conversation we had, certainly some of us as team members, maybe us all. I remember saying that probably this time last year, in 12 months' time, if things have gone well, we would have had several COIL projects. And it's very nice to sit here and think, well, actually, that's happened. But it's a challenge now in terms of both continuity, because we want to keep these particular COIL projects going with these partners. But there's a problem of, or a challenge of change in development, because there are issues now about extending COILs and building them more and more into our programs. Because what you've heard is a project which actually works at undergraduate level, it works at master's level. So in that sense, it's there aren't too many limits on the potential to include COILs within our education offering. But of course, choices have to be made about scale, scope. Do you bring in new partners? So these, in some ways, it's if we sit here a year later, thinking, coping with, to some extent, success, and thinking, how do we take it forward in a way that doesn't, which is manageable? Because we could run many more COILs, but we have to act and make some choices as to how we go forward. So that's a challenge we face at the moment, and we haven't got ready-made answers to that challenge. But a little bit like Ahmed just said regarding the students, it's a good challenge to face.
I really like the way the way you've described these projects really shows the working together of our professional services colleagues from the Study Abroad and Internationalisation team and academics, all so clearly working together on these projects. It seems that this approach could easily transfer to other disciplines. So could you tell us about any plans that you have to share your practice?
Sure. I think the awards have been very helpful in accelerating those plans, actually. Again, that's another nice surprise. We always wanted to diffuse and share the ideas of COILs throughout the faculty and the institution more widely, because it's very transferable. But the award has given some attention and impetus to our ability to do that. So in that sense, it's challenged us, being nominated challenged us to put down our ideas, communicate them, and communicate the potential to diffuse the ideas and the learning for the benefit of others. So that's what we're doing, actually. And we've certainly made ourselves available as individuals and as a team for people around the faculty and the institution. And I know John's probably got some particular examples to talk about that, of people who are coming to see us and talk to us about the COIL. So very much in our plans to share the practice.
Yeah, I think what's been great is that obviously the awards have kind of set us up and kind of given people an outlet to come and find us for more information. So like we've been supporting colleagues internally to the University of Liverpool. So people in the politics department, we're kind of consulting on their project that they're looking to set up, giving our insight to colleagues in the School of Law as well and social justice, giving them our insight into the projects and kind of I wish I'd known that before I started this, which is kind of nice to do internally as well to support them.
John, colleagues and I, we presented a paper recently at the Academy of Marketing conference around the benefits of study exchanges and building a strong course community. Colleagues and I also have plans to publish in leading pedagogical journals, such as the Academy of Management Learning and Studies in Higher Education. So I guess we'd like to say, watch this space.
Well, thanks for your time, everybody. It's been really great to listen to the development of COILs. This podcast is the Developing Practice podcast, and we like to finish the podcast in the same way in each episode, where we get our guests to give us 3 or 4 take-home tips that the listeners could reflect on in terms of their own personal practice. So if you could give us a few things to reflect on, what would they be? Sure.
The COILs for us are an innovation. And in that sense, it is a cliche, but need is the mother of innovation. And the pandemic conditions did cause us to look at what we were able to do. And we found COILs to be a very good mechanism to deal with the need to provide something in the absence of actual mobility. And we did have an idea to work with there. So definitely that was a learning, but good ideas need a receptive context. And I think John and Ahmed's work with Georgia found a receptive context in the conditions of the pandemic, but also the school. The school, and I'm talking about colleagues, I was taking this idea of the COIL to the management team and getting support for it. So the management school has been a very receptive context for COILs to run, and we are committed to developing them. So that's very important. Without a receptive context, good ideas can often just founder. And I suppose the other thing is be prepared to try and experiment. Again, that's another key part of innovation. And it's a phrase I heard a lot during the COVID pandemic, but don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. And it's easy to say, well, we can't do this. It's not perfect. It's not this or that or the other. Colleagues didn't have that impediment in their minds. It was a case of let's try it, let's experiment, and we had willing partners. So that attitude was very important.
Absolutely, thanks, Terry. And at the Faculty Learning and Teaching Awards, we randomly scribbled down on a piece of paper this new phrase, and it sounds really bizarre, but it's called CHILL, and you might be thinking that that's a call for relaxation, but it stands for Collaborative Hybrid International Learning, and the whole idea is that we engage students in a study exchange initiative with one of our partner institutions. So the students would partake in some experiential learning activities, be it with employers, be it with guest speakers, but also at the same time, whilst working in groups, for example, or in collaboration with employers or guest speakers, where they might assign them a project brief, they would use online platforms to be able to work together with each other as a team. So it's covering really the best of both worlds, but also a number of hallmark skills such as digital literacy, teamwork, communication, cultural awareness, and many of the hallmark skills that are covered throughout our COIL projects so far. So it's very much an embryonic idea at this stage, but it's one that we've had initial discussions about.
Yeah, and I'd agree with Amra there. And I think my biggest thing that should be the take home for anyone is that if you're thinking about doing one of these COIL projects, is have a clear idea of what you want to be, of what you want to achieve, and just be prepared. Think through your plans, find all the holes that are potentially in your project and make them into a bigger issue than they really are. And that'll go a long way to helping you fix them before presenting your idea. And then my final thing is just have a committed team or group of people that you want to work with, consisting of academic and professional services staff, the relevant expertise. Like, find people that you trust and who trust you, and that you can effectively communicate with. The open and honesty in the communication between all of us on our different projects is the key things to success. And that goes to our partners as well. You know, we've been very fortunate with who our partners are and the people that make up those teams. Like, we've developed these great relationships, and we are just really open and honest with each other. And if there's an issue, we meet it head on, and that's what you need for success, in my idea.
Well, it's been great to have you on the podcast. It's been really interesting to listen to all the work that you've been doing over the last couple of years during the pandemic and what's been happening with the COIL. So thank you all for spending some time with me today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having us, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I thought that was a fascinating insight into COIL projects, and we got to hear what a COIL was and the success that the team have had. John mentioned how COILs are a great opportunity to bring staff and students together from different countries, cultures, and academic backgrounds to work towards a common goal, providing students with a platform to learn more about their area of study from an international perspective.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I really like the way that it brings those different people together on these projects. It seems that the COILs really do support one of our key graduate attributes that we're seeking to develop here at the university in terms of global citizenship, as well as contributing to the student experience in a range of other ways, as students get to engage with key partners internationally to further their understanding. Well, I hope there's lots there for our listeners to think about. And if you'd like to take your thinking further, we've added some resources to the website on a specific podcast reading list, which you can access at liverpool.ac.uk/the-academy/podcast. Also, we'd love to hear what you thought about the episode. So please do tweet us at Live Uni Academy, and you can find us at eLearnerMatt or at Alexandra_Owen on Twitter.
And we're really grateful for those who have taken the time to either rate or review our show in your podcast provider's app. So if you haven't done so already, please do take the time to review our show, or even better, simply share the episode with friends and colleagues on social media. Bye for now.